This is FE Peer Review. The date is November 11th, 2022. This is a brief response to Rachie on the subject of clear communications. A week ago, I made a video called Gravity Is What It Is, and in that video, I made mention of Rachie. She has, in turn, made a video in response. Rachie, by the way, if in the future you should want to make a response to one of my videos, please don't hesitate to come by my video and leave a comment and let me know that you've made one. I'm happy that you do. Also, feel free to post a link. Now, I know sometimes YouTube gets fussy with links, so if there's any problem with the link, just let me know and I'll post the link myself. So Rachie made a response, and having watched her video and read most of her comments and most of the other comments on that video, I feel the need to clarify a couple of points. So I'm going to go back now. At around the 2:40 mark in my video, I said, all these people who keep repeating gravity is not a force are misquoting. And I was referring specifically to the highlighted Wikipedia entry here. By, quote, all these people, I meant specifically people who point to this specific Wikipedia quote highlighted. Anthony Riley is one of these. The first time I ever heard relative density disequilibrium mentioned was by Anthony Riley. And in that same video, he specifically pointed to this Wikipedia quote, the part I highlighted. This was about 2.5 years ago, I think. Well, I've gone back to Riley's page now, Riley's channel, and the older videos are gone. There's nothing older than a year, so whatever video that was that I saw is no longer up, apparently. However, there is another video by him in which he uses that quote. It's actually not exactly the same quote, but the important parts are the same. I think what he may have done, which is a good thing, is found the original source for the Wikipedia article. And he has provided a link to that source, which I want to say thank you very much, Anthony. That's very helpful. It's Caltech University and somebody by the name of Beckenstein at Caltech University. So the quote that Anthony has up on his screen says, general relativity's crucial ingredient is the concept of gravitation, not as a force, but as a manifestation of the curvature of space-time. So the subject of my original video was grammar. It was the meaning of the phrase not as a force, as opposed to a phrase not a force. Two different meanings. Not as a force, or not a force. That was the point of my original video, and that seems to have gone over a lot of people's heads. The quote does not say that gravity is not a force. As I tried to explain in my video, all it says is that Einstein explained gravity in a different way, as the curvature of space-time. Now, I'm also not saying that everybody who says gravity is not a force is misquoting that Wikipedia entry. Rachie, in her response video, showed Sabine Hussenfelder saying gravity is not a force, Brian Cox saying gravity is not a force, all these people saying gravity is not a force. Now, I don't know if any of them have actually read the Wikipedia entry. They were not quoting the Wikipedia entry. That I'm certain of. They were using their own words, saying their own thing. They were not quoting the Wikipedia entry that says, described gravity not as a force. So those are not the people I'm referring to when I say all these people who keep repeating gravity is not a force. I'm referring to people like Anthony Riley, who quoted the Wikipedia entry and who is now quoting this phrase here that says gravity not as a force. I'm also not personally arguing that gravity is or isn't a force. That's a different subject. I'm simply saying that the specific Wikipedia quote, and the quote we see on the screen here, does not say what some people seem to think it says. So I would discourage people from referring to it, the Wikipedia quote, the quote we see on the screen here, if they're trying to make a point that gravity is not a force. If you want to make a point that gravity is not a force, go to sources that say gravity is not a force. Don't go to sources that say described not as a force, but as. That means something else in English. That's all I'm trying to say. Go to a good source. Back to my notes. I'm not personally arguing that gravity is or isn't a force. That is a different subject. So I'll take this opportunity now to point out two more things. First, in no place in my video did I state whether I personally think gravity is or isn't a force. Nowhere. If you don't believe that, Rachie, and this is addressed specifically to you, if you don't believe that, then you'll need to go back and watch it. The closest I came to saying something that might be misconstrued as that is at 4 minutes 40 seconds. I said, within Newtonian physics, which is a qualifying phrase, within Newtonian physics, gravity is indeed a force. I explicitly made it clear I was talking about Newtonian physics. Note, this is, and that's not my opinion, that's just my description of Newtonian physics. It's not my opinion about it, it's my best attempt at describing Newtonian physics. I explicitly made it clear I was talking about Newtonian physics. Note, this is exactly the same kind of qualifying phrase that your guys use in the video. I'm referring, Rachie, to your video now, and we're going to look at those clips. So we'll go to 431. According to the general theory of relativity, gravity is not a force. He starts that sentence with an explicit qualifying phrase. According to the general theory of relativity. That is the context he's referring to. Just as I used the same type of qualifying phrase, within Newtonian physics, gravity is indeed a force. He's saying context, general relativity, gravity not a force. I'm saying context, within Newtonian physics, gravity is a force. Now let's go to 456. Sabine Hossenfelder says, Einstein's theory of general relativity tells us that the effect we call gravity is different from normal forces. Again, she's providing a context, a specific, explicit context. Einstein's theory of general relativity tells us. So within that context, gravity is different from what she calls normal forces. Reminder, I use the same type of qualifying phrase. I provided a context within Newtonian physics. Now let's look at 607. In old school physics, gravity is a force pulling down objects. I think we can assume by old school he is referring to Newton. But if we trust general relativity, gravity isn't a force. Again, he starts that with a qualifying phrase. If we trust general relativity, he's talking about context. General relativity, gravity not a force. Old school context, gravity is a force. In all three of the above examples, your science communicators explicitly state that they are talking within the context of general relativity, and they made that explicit in the same way I made it explicit that I was talking about Newtonian physics. As an aside, ask any of these three people if Newtonian physics describes gravity as a force. Remember, I said Newtonian physics. Ask any of them if Newtonian physics describes gravity as a force, and I'm 100% certain they will say yes. I understand that Sabine Hossenfelder is somewhat approachable. Rachie, if you really wanted to look into this a little more deeply, you might consider writing her an email. It might say something like, I saw your video, and in the video at this point you said, Einstein's theory of general relativity tells us that the effect we call gravity is different from normal forces. Ms. Hossenfelder, would you say that Newton's physics describes gravity as a force? That leaves it as a simple yes or no question that I think is not a leading question in any way. If you've got some other way you want to ask the question, that's fine, of course. If you do this at all, I'd appreciate it. If you don't, that's all right. But I think I'm tempted to write an email to her myself and just see if I get a response. I think I will. And if I do get a response, I will be sure to share that in a short video. I don't normally engage in a lot of back and forth in my videos. I don't plan to here either, but I will put that response up if I get one. And I'm going to be pretty thoroughly buried in other more interesting, frankly, more interesting projects for the next 6 weeks till the end of the year. Again, doing a bit of traveling, which will be nice. So I won't be putting up a lot of videos in the next 6 weeks, but I will try to keep in touch with everyone. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found it useful. I hope this cleared up some things. I want to state, maybe I'll do a quick recap. My earlier video, in that earlier video, I did not express an opinion of my own about whether I thought gravity was or wasn't a force. That wasn't the point of my video. My point was understanding the semantics of a specific sentence that I have seen misunderstood. I think one of the things I try to get at from time to time in my videos is the difficulty of communicating well with each other. I mean, even when everybody is being totally sincere and honest, it's hard enough. These misunderstandings are very easy to make. And I'm trying to help people, help myself to clarify where these misunderstandings can arise so that we can avoid them and understand each other better. That's what I'm trying to do. Anyway, if you like this video, hit that like button. Give me a thumbs up. And of course, comments are always welcome. Rachie, again, if you want to do a response, by all means, put a comment in there. Let me know and put the link up. And if there's a problem with the link, let me know and I will put the link up. Okay, everybody. Bye-bye now. Have a great day.